Hey, welcome back, Knicks fan. Wanted to recap last night's game. The Knicks went into South Beach, and they made a mess of South Beach. These younglings did, and they played really well. And I just wanted to recap the game, go through some of the reasons why they won this game. Also, look at some of the notable performances. We also want to look at the guys that had the biggest impact on this game. The reason why we actually won this game. We want to take a look at that. And overall, basically, the Knicks won this game because they were able to out rebound the Heat. They had 18 offensive rebounds. I think the Heats had about 8. They had 25 defensive rebounds. The Heats had, I think, 27 defensive rebound, maybe, or I can't really recall right now. But however, the Knicks were able to out rebound the Heats, especially on the offensive glass. That was one main reason. Then the other reason was the Knicks were able to turn over the Heats a lot more than they turned us over. We had the Heats had 15 turnovers. We had 11, and so because of those two huge, big issues, the Knicks were able to get 82 attempts at the field goal. They made 36, while the Heat only got 70 attempts at the field goal, and they converted 35 of them. And so it's just right now, it's really looking like the Knicks were actually faster and bigger than the opponents. So they're not necessarily obviously more skilled. They're not necessarily more experienced or better NBA players, but they're looking like they're faster and they're bigger than the opponents. And this is the third game the Knicks have won recently in the past week where the opponent actually shot better than they did from the field. And so this is something I'm a little concerned about. Like, how long can we get away with this? Being able to, we can definitely outspeed and out physical teams, so that's actually really good. But at some point, we need to start buckling down a little more on the defensive end and being more effective defenders. And so that's one of the things I'm worried about with this team. But however, right now they're doing it. They're faster and they're bigger than the other teams at the moment. And so that's the reason why we're winning some of these ball games. And so what we have here is some of the defensive stats here. That's where we're going to start in terms of going over individual performances. And as you see here, we had some pretty good defensive performances, but a lot of the guys did struggle. Obi Toppin is the one person that I noticed right off the bat that actually performed pretty well. He was matched up against Tucker quite a bit and a couple of other guys, but he did a really good job. This was a easier matchup for him. These guys are on like extremely shifty and quick off the dribble, and so he was able to keep pace with these guys and did a good job challenging shots. So he had a much better defensive performance today. And then the other person was Alec Burks, had a pretty decent defensive performance. And then the main one for me is Emmanuel Quickly. Although it was 43%, he held them to 43% shooting, but you have to really like what Emmanuel Quickly has been doing on the defensive end. I want to say the last 3 weeks or so, he's really picked it up along with his offense, so it's really good. And so if we look here from top to bottom, we're showing that basically we're showing here that Obi Toppin, basically, we're looking at individual matchups right now. Okay, so Obi Toppin outscored. Obi Toppin's opponent scored 5 points, and he held them to 29% shooting. So he won his matchup by 10 points because I think he scored 15 points in this game. And so Jericho Sims held his opponent to 43% shooting, 11 points. He was outscored by 5 points, so he kind of lost the matchup in the points department, but did a pretty good job on the defensive end. Alec Burks held his opponent to 25% shooting. Opponent scored 10 points. He won his matchup by 2 points. He was actually 13% more efficient. Jericho Sim was 57% more efficient, and Obi Toppin was 31% more efficient. Just real quick, just a quick note about Obi Toppin. I should have said this when I went over his stats first. It's like consistently he's been outscoring his opponent, and he's also at the same time he's being more efficient than your opponent. And if you guys remember, when we look at Julius Randle's stats, especially the matchups, Julius Randle tends to win the matchup in terms of like outscoring the opponent. But the problem is Julius Randle is never more efficient. He's rarely more efficient than his opponent this season. It's very rare when that happens. But if you notice with Obi Toppin is a consistent thing. He's consistently winning the matchups in terms of scoring more points, and he also wins the matchup in terms of being more efficient than his opponent. I'm sorry. Now we're gonna go right back to Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier was basically 50% from. I'm sorry, held the defender, his opponent, to 50% shooting. He opponent scored 8 points. He lost his matchup by 1 point, and he was also 32% less efficient than his matchup. Taj Gibson held the opponent to 63%. His opponent scored 14 points. He lost the matchup by 9 points, so his opponent scored 9 more points than Taj Gibson did, and also Taj Gibson was 13% less efficient. Mitch Robb allowed 83% shooting. That's rare with Mitch Robb, so he's still not feeling great. And the opponent, or at least he's a little out of sort, trying to get back into the flow of the game. Allows the opponent to score 16 points and lost. Basically, he was outscored by 5 points, so he lost the matchup by 5 points. He was 3% less efficient as well. Emmanuel Quickly, held the opponent to 43% shooting. His opponent scored 8 points. He outscored the opponent by 15 points and was 7% more efficient than the opponent. And so now we're getting two players consistently winning their matchups, and then also consistently being more efficient than their matchups. And so that's Emmanuel Quickly and Obi Toppin. And so the Knicks actually have something here now. Of course, RJ Barrett, the last game, was able to do that, but this game RJ Barrett did struggle, and we're going to go over his numbers as well. And so, did we go over his numbers? Why isn't RJ Barrett on this list? This is crazy. Okay, but we'll go over RJ Barrett at some point. However, we have Quentin Grimes here. Quentin Grimes, he held the opponent to 25% shooting, 2 points from the opponent. He outscored the opponent by 7 points, and he was 25% more efficient. So this is probably Quentin Grimes' best game since he came back from the injury. Miles McBride, he held the opponent to 50% shooting, 4 points from the opponent. He was able to win the matchup by 1 point, but he was 17% less efficient than his opponents. And so Miles McBride, he's still trying to kind of find his footing, but in that fourth quarter, when it really counted most, that's when he scored his points, and also that's when he had some defensive stops, right? So when when it mattered most, that's when Miles McBride showed up, and so that was really important and really good to see. And so right now we're gonna look at some impact. Basically, look at the players that had the most impact on the game. And so this is a PIE, and this PIE that I calculated, I used is the formula that the NBA normally uses to calculate PIE. And so when I calculated, this is what I had for the game. Emmanuel Quickly had basically the highest player impact estimate at 25.5%. Obi Toppin was next at 16.1%. Jericho was 12.7%. Alec Burks 11.67%. Mitchell Robinson 11.67%. RJ Barrett was 8.33%. McBride was 6.67%. Taj was 3.89%. Quentin Grimes 2.2%. And Evan Fournier was 1.1%. Now this player impact estimate it basically factors in your offensive contribution to the game. It does factor in efficiency, and then it also factors in some defense on here. The only defense is factoring is basically the defensive rebound. It factors in the block shots, and it also factors in the steals that you get. However, that's really not enough of the defense, because the bulk of the defense is really how well did you perform versus your matchup, right? So how much more efficient than your matchup were you? And so that's what we're going to look at next. And so that's basically what gives us this PIE with a defensive factor. And so this is something I add to the PIE to help basically to help us get a better understanding of what impact each player has once you factor in their defensive efforts, right? And so once you do that, it kind of pushes up Emmanuel Quickly's numbers to 41%. So he was a major reason why we won this game. The next one was Obi Toppin at 28.79, Alec Burks 13.67, Quentin Grimes 11.1, McBride 7.07, Jericho Sims 6.5, Mitchell Robinson 4.55, Evan Fournier -1, RJ Barrett -3.5, and Taj was -8.5. And of course, the reason, it makes sense, right? The reason why some of these guys are negative, because not everyone was a positive contributor to the team, right? But if you look at the offensive stats, it makes it look that way, that everyone had a positive contribution to this win. And in some ways, people did have some positive contributions. But if you look at the game overall and you factor everything in, there are some players that were definitely a drag on our performance. And so that's why you're going to get some guys with a negative rating on this PIE with a defensive factor, with the defense factor. And so we already went through the PIE as well. And so I'm just kind of want to go over why, the PIE factor, how it came out the way it did. Like I said before, Emmanuel quickly was the best one because, number one, he outscored his opponent by 15 points. That's quite a bit. And then also was 7% more efficient than the opponent, right? And so that's pretty much the reason why. And then also, if you look at the field goal made differential, he made 3 more field goals than the opponents that, his matchups. And so that's the reason why his this PIE with the defense factor is like so much higher. Obi Toppin, same thing. He basically was double digits. He outscored his opponent by 10 points and was 31% more efficient. You rarely get this from Julius Randle. It's like, look, I'm not trying to beat up on Julius Randle. He didn't play this game, but this is the reason why we're winning ball games. And this is the reason why we were losing ball games earlier. That's what I've been saying the whole season. The problem with the Knicks is efficiency. They're just not efficient. And the problem is the coach refuses to play the guys that are efficient. If you have guys that are extremely efficient like Obi Toppin, and the next person is Mitchell Robinson, you got to get them the rock. You got to get people like Mitchell Robinson and Obi Toppin the ball, because they're the most efficient players that you have on the squad. And it's like people, say, oh, like that doesn't mean anything. All they can do is like basically dive to the rim or score at the rim or at the basket. I mean, that's a good thing. There's not a lot of people in the league that can do that. There's not a lot of players in the league that can score at the rim the way these guys do. They fly above everyone else, It's like there's no air traffic control in basketball. And so when you have a guy like Obi Toppin, he can do whatever he wants to once he goes flying through that air. And that's a huge asset to the team. And same thing with Mitchell Robinson. And so that's why the whole season I've always been saying it's a shame that we can't really get these guys going. We've been having such bad guard play that we just couldn't get them going. But now Obi Toppin, now people are seeing that, like, honestly, Obi Toppin, yes, he does need some good guard play, but Obi Toppin doesn't necessarily just need a good guard all the time. He's really good. He actually even make the guards better. The way he runs the pick and roll, the way he moves off ball, he moves with a lot of speed, covers. If he sees an opening, he hits it really hard, and he makes the defense move hard, and he makes the defense make quick decisions. He doesn't give them time to basically hedge their bets and kind of slow down the ball handler so the ball handler can try to to slow down the ball handler's ability to read the defense. Obi Toppin forces the defense to move right away to make a decision so that ball handler can make better and quicker, more decisive decisions. Same thing with a Mitchell Robinson, but the problem with these guys, we can't get them the ball. Mitchell Robinson is more dependent on the guard, but Obi Toppin not really that much. As you guys see yesterday with Obi Toppin, he was able to put the ball on the ground to get to the basket, even to put the best thing I saw was Obi Toppin pump fake at the 3-point line and basically drive and hit a pull-up jump shot. And this is the guy everyone's saying, oh, he doesn't have any game, he can't shoot. This guy was basically player of the year. It's like these guys didn't even watch any of this guy's highlights when he basically came into the league. When you have that kind of skill and then you have athleticism, it normally translates into the NBA. The only way it doesn't translate if you're a total boob, and the kid is not a boob at all. And so that's the reason why he's been really killing it lately. And everyone is like, he's really changed everyone's mind on this. And to tell you the truth, people are trying to give like Thibodeau all this credit. Thibodeau doesn't deserve credit. People are saying Thibodeau's like, the kids are playing for Thibodeau. The kids are playing to prove Thibodeau wrong. That's really why they're playing. These kids haven't gotten burned all season, and they're trying to prove the coach wrong. They're trying to prove everyone wrong that they basically can play on the stage and they can play in the NBA. And so I think, all this trying to give Thibodeau credit and and then of course I remember best one was Alan Hahn, basically the tweet that he sent out saying like how Thibodeau was challenging all the naysayers, and I'm like, it was like such a company man tweet that he sent out. I'm like, bro, please stop. It was like trying to make it seem like where they're proving the naysayers wrong. The naysayers were telling you guys to play the kids. Like, you guys, what Thibodeau basically said in that press conference and what you're saying doesn't prove the naysayers wrong. The naysayers were right the whole time. The fans were right the whole time. They've been telling you guys and telling Thibodeau to play these damn kids because the veterans just can't get it done. And he refused to do it. And now he's finally forced to do it because of injuries and, some other reasons, because at the end of the season they were mathematically eliminated. And he's reluctantly playing his kids, and it's like the kids are showing him up. It's showing that he made a really bad decision, and and a lot of his basically the way his style, and because he's stubborn and he's stuck in his ways, it can be a detriment to the team, and it has been a detriment to the team. We've been saying this all year. If he would have just started playing these kids a lot earlier, we would probably be in the playoffs right now, because it's like the guys they had out there, they were trotting out there the whole season. They're just not very good defenders. They're not very good defenders. And so you put Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier on this team, and that was your solution to improving. And look, we gave them the benefit of a doubt. We thought, okay, maybe they'll play better defense under Thibs, and they are a better offensive player, and maybe the offensive production will outweigh the defensive shortfall, but it didn't. And we saw that early that it wasn't happening. And then once you saw that early, they should have just made that switch. He should have been making that switch. He should have been basically started, playing the younger players a little more. And honestly, given the issues with the point guard rotation, Kemba Walker and Derrick Rose went down early in the season because the coach played these old guards like 38 minutes a game for weeks straight until they got injured. That's what happened. But if he would have done, the lineup that he was presented, he had no choice but to play McBride because of the lineup that he was presented. The front office gave you two old guards with really bad legs, and your solution was to play them 38 minutes a game until each of them went down. And then everyone wants to blame injuries. And what can you do? We had old guards that got injured. No, Thibodeau injured the old guards. You can't play Derrick Rose 38 minutes a game for a week. Everyone knew that. Everybody was saying wow, we got to wait till we got to wait to see what happens, see how long this lasts, right? And of course, it only lasted a week. Same thing with Kemba Walker. You did the same thing once Derrick Rose went down, and he finally decided to start playing Kemba Walker again. He played Kemba Walker 38 minutes for a week straight, and Kemba Walker played great in that week, right? And then he basically went down shortly after that, and then they had to shut him down for a while, and then he came back in, and then of course you guys know what happened, the rest of the season. And so that's pretty much that's pretty much what happened this season, and you can't give Thibodeau, I'm sorry, you can't give him any credit for this, right? And then the other thing too is I'm hearing people saying, oh, given what's happened, now the front office and the analytics team have, at least they have something to make good decisions with. And honestly, the analytics team, they're not that impressive to me. This is the analytics team that brought you Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier on his team. It's I don't know, people are acting like this analytics team for the Knicks are so great. It's they're the reason why, that's part of the big reason why this team sucked this year. Because they brought you Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. And everyone is thinking okay, it's now this analytics team is going to do something special this offseason. Please. So overall, they definitely do have some decisions to make. But, it is what it is. They suck this year, the front office and the coaching staff. And it's really their fault. And then, of course, it was also Julius Randle's fault a lot. He was the top gun. And he just came back and he got paid. And let's be real, the dude got paid, came in this year, and he underperformed. And it's not just on the offensive end. If you look at the defensive end, so it kind of shows you he just performed for the contract. That's what it suggests, his statistics, because it's not just he's having an off year on the offensive end. You look at his defensive numbers, it's just way off. It's not even anywhere near close where it was last year. And so and defense, because he has the ability on defense, so defense is just more of an effort thing for him, and he just doesn't give the effort. I mean, he could be Julius Randle is a very talented defender, and he showed that last year, but he only does it if he wants to do it. And so it is what it is. We'll see what happens there going forward. If they want to bring him back, I think, there is a way forward, but it has to be on Julius Randle playing more like Obi Toppin. That's really what it comes down to. He's got to play more like Obi Toppin. You got to make quick decisions with the ball. You got to make the right decisions. All this dribbling the air out of the ball, it just doesn't make any sense. You bring the ball down, and then you get a pick and roll, right? You get a switch you want, and then you're pounding the ball, and then take a fadeaway jump shot. I mean, that's not a recipe for success, because you're exerting a lot of energy doing that. You're bringing up the ball, then initiating the offense, get a switch that you want, and then you're backing the person down because it's a smaller man, and then you're taking a fadeaway jump shot. I mean, that's just not efficient. You're never going to shoot high. You're not going to shoot very efficiently if that's what you're doing. It doesn't matter how well of a shooter you are, and it's just unfortunate he hasn't been able to pick that up, and I hope he picks it up. But there is a way forward if they want to keep Julius Randle and Obi Toppin, but they got to be able to play both of them together, and they have to basically Julius would have to play more like Obi. And if they did that, this would be a very good team. So there's a way forward, but it's on Julius. It's really on him, And I don't know if he's going to do it because he thinks he's the top dog on this team. He can't initiate. They're better off having RJ initiating and IQ initiating. It can't be Randle because you can just tell he just hasn't been a very good playmaker. Even last year when he did a great job making plays, it was mostly collapse the defense, right? It was really easy stuff. Get the defense to collapse, and then he'll swing the ball out to a three-point shooter. And honestly, that's not extremely difficult to do. But the difficult stuff is like basically being able to get your team easy shots at the basket, right? And that's the stuff you rarely see from Julius, but you see more of that like from RJ, right? You see a little more of that from Quickly. You see that from McBride, but you never see that from Julius. I mean, Julius, I think I've seen him do that maybe a couple of times this year with Mitch. And so it's just going to be tough. So he can't be the playmaker going forward. And, you can't give any of these guys credit. You can't give Thibs credit for the success the past few games. And so let's just go a little further down with some of these stats to talk about why some of the guys, RJ Barrett, he did struggle today. And he struggled today because, number one, he wasn't very efficient. And it was because the Miami Heat defense, they basically was throwing double teams at him. And honestly, in a lot of ways, that was a good thing for us, right? So basically, him getting double teamed by the Miami Heat means there was other guys that were open. And so him getting all the attention just allowed other guys to be able to go off. Like I said, Obi Toppin was extremely efficient because of that, right? It was just it just made for easier basketball because he was receiving so much attention. And the crazy thing was in the fourth quarter, he didn't press at all. He realized he didn't have it going, and he made sure he kind of, got the ball out of his hand. He swung the ball around, especially if they ran a double team around him, and he was able to take advantage of that. And so that's the really good thing about RJ. He didn't play a great game today, but the fact that he received he got all the attention that he did kind of help his teammates out. However, on the other end, he just really struggled on the defensive end, and it was a problem. So he allowed 69% shooting from the opponents, 25 points. He was matched up with Butler quite a bit, but not all the time. And so, but still, he got 25 points on him from the opposition. And he was basically 40% less efficient. The opposition was 40% more efficient than he was. And so that's the reason why his PIE deflation factor was negative. And so it shows that he was a drag on this game statistically. He was. But this is one of those reasons why you also watch the game, because yes, he was definitely a drag. He definitely should have played a lot better. He was way too inefficient. But we also benefited from the fact that he did get those double teams. Taj Gibson, this is just one of those games. I mean, he had some good moments, but, it's just one of these games where it's just come consistently playing this guy is just, I mean, he was good in the fourth quarter. However, like, to tell you the truth, is like it's sometimes it's a little tough. So here, statistically, he just he allowed 14 points from the opposition. He scored about 6 points, and so he lost his matchup by 9 points, and so that's the reason why he had the biggest drag, because he basically lost his matchup for the most part and was less efficient than his matchup, and so was RJ. But so that's pretty much it with this. Hey guys, let me know what you think about this. These are basically the guys, and all the guys I played yesterday, and we kind of went through, like, their impact on the game. So we have the PIE on one, in this one column here, and then we also have a PIE with defense factor that's in this other column, and that's the one that we're basically looking at. That we look at the most. That's what we look at in terms of, like, number one, building a team, and number two, if we're evaluating games, that's what we look at to figure out who had the most impact on these games. What do you guys think about it? Who do you think had the most impact in this game? Comment below. And also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Have a good day.